There is a particular kind of pain that I did not know existed until I was old. It is not the pain of losing a child to death. That is a different pain, and I would never compare them. This is the pain of losing a child who is still alive. The pain of a grown son or daughter who has walked away, who has stopped calling, who has closed the door, who is out there, somewhere, living their life, breathing the same air, healthy and whole, and who has decided, for reasons that may or may not have ever been explained to you, that you are no longer part of that life. That pain is a specific pain, and if you are living inside it right now, I want you to know two things before I say anything else. The first is that you are not alone. There are more parents living inside this pain than you could possibly imagine, and almost none of them talk about it, because the shame is so heavy that they suffer in silence, each one believing they are the only one. You are not the only one. This is happening in millions of homes. The second thing I want you to know is that I am not going to lie to you to make you feel better. I am going to tell you the truth. Some of it will be hard to hear, but you did not come to an old man for comfortable lies. You came for the truth, and the truth, even when it hurts, is the only thing that can actually help. Let me start with the hardest truth, because if I start anywhere else, you will not trust the rest of what I say. Sometimes the child is right to walk away. I know that is not what you want to hear. I know you want me to tell you that your child is being cruel, that they are ungrateful, that they have been poisoned against you by a spouse or by therapy or by the modern world. And sometimes that is true. I will get to that. But sometimes, and I have to say this plainly, the child walked away because they were carrying wounds that came from you, not because you were a monster. Most parents are not monsters, but because you were a human being who made mistakes, and some of those mistakes landed on your child in ways you never intended and never saw. And your child grew up carrying those wounds, and at some point in their adult life, they decided that they could not heal while remaining in contact with the source of the wounds, and they walked away. Not to punish you, to survive, to protect themselves, to finally stop the bleeding from a wound that reopened every time they were near you. And here is the part that is almost impossible for a parent to accept. You might not know what the wound is. You might have no memory of causing it, because the things that wound a child are often not the big dramatic things that a parent would remember. They are the small things, the constant criticism that you thought was helping them improve, the comparison to a sibling that you thought was motivating them, the dismissal of their feelings that you thought was toughening them up, the way you never quite approved, never quite said you were proud, never quite made them feel like enough. To you, these were small things, or they were not even things at all, just the ordinary texture of parenting the way you understood it. But to a child, absorbed day after day for 18 years, they were the water they swam in, and that water shaped them, and some of what it shaped was pain. And the child grew up and looked at that pain and traced it back to its source, and the source was the home they grew up in, and they made the hard decision to step away from the source. That happens. It happens more than parents want to believe. And if there is any chance that this is your situation, then the first and most important thing you can do is not to defend yourself, not to insist on your innocence, but to genuinely, humbly ask yourself, what might I have done that I never saw? Because that question, asked honestly, is the only door that might ever lead back to your child. Now I will say the other side, because the other side is also true. Sometimes the child walks away and the parent did nothing to deserve it. Sometimes a grown child is captured by a bitterness that has nothing to do with reality. Sometimes they are influenced by a partner who wants them isolated from their family. Sometimes they have adopted a way of thinking that reframes every ordinary childhood memory as a grievance. Sometimes they are simply cruel or careless, or so wrapped up in their own life that they let the relationship die through pure neglect. This happens too. And if this is your situation, if you have searched your heart honestly and cannot find the wound, if you were a good parent who made ordinary mistakes and loved your child with everything you had, then you are carrying a pain that you did not earn. And that is one of the cruelest things that can happen to a human being. To be punished for a crime you did not commit by the person you love most, with a sentence that has no end and no appeal. I know that pain. I have watched friends live inside it, and I am not going to pretend it is fair, because it is not. Before I share the next teaching, I need to tell you something. I am not going to be here forever, and most of what I know was never written anywhere, so I sat down and I wrote it. All of it. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. The ones about seeing people clearly, the ones about protecting your heart without closing it, the ones I have never said on camera. It is called the native way, and it costs less than one dinner you will not remember. Scan the code on your screen or look in the pinned comment. But do not leave yet, because whichever of these situations is yours, what I am about to tell you next is what you actually do about it, and it is the same either way. So what do you do? Whether the fault is yours or theirs or, as is most common, some tangled mixture of both, what do you actually do when your grown child has walked away? I am going to give you the truth, and the truth has 3 parts. The first part is you do the honest work on yourself, not the performance of it, the real thing. You sit down, alone in silence, and you go back through the years of raising that child, and you look, honestly, for the places where you might have caused harm, not to torture yourself, to find the truth. Because if there is a wound that you caused and you can find it and you can genuinely understand it, then you have found the one thing that might one day open the door. And even if the door never opens, the work is not wasted, because a parent who honestly reckons with their own mistakes becomes a better person, a more peaceful person, a person who is no longer defending a false image of themselves. This work is hard. It requires setting down your pride and your defensiveness and your need to be right, but it is the most important work available to you. And here is the key. When you find something, if you find something, you reach out, and you do not explain, and you do not justify, and you do not say I was wrong, but you say, plainly, I have been thinking about your childhood, and I can see now that I hurt you in this specific way, and I am sorry, and I am not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I see it. No conditions, no expectations, just the pure, clean acknowledgement. That is the only kind of reaching out that has any chance of working, because your child does not want your defense. Your child wants to be seen, and most estranged children are waiting, whether they know it or not, for the one thing they never got, to be truly seen by the parent who never quite saw them. I watched this happen with my friend Raymond. Raymond's daughter cut him off when she was 30. No explanation, just stopped answering, and Raymond was furious at first. He called her ungrateful. He listed everything he had done for her, the college he paid for, the wedding he funded, the car he bought her. He kept a mental ledger of his sacrifices, and he could not understand how a daughter could look at that ledger and walk away. And for 3 years Raymond stayed angry, and the anger kept the door shut tighter than any silence could. And then, one day, Raymond got tired of being angry, tired of being right, and in the tiredness, something softened, and he started to actually think, not about what he had given her, about how he had made her feel. And slowly, painfully, he began to remember things. The way he had mocked her when she cried as a little girl, telling her to toughen up. The way he had never come to a single one of her dance recitals because he was working. The way he had compared her constantly to her older brother who did everything right. Small things, things Raymond had never thought about twice, but things that had shaped his daughter's entire sense of whether her father loved her. And Raymond wrote her a letter, not a letter defending himself, a letter that said, "I have been remembering your childhood, and I can see now that I made you feel like you were never enough, and I am so sorry, and I do not expect anything. I just needed you to know that I finally understand." And he mailed it, and he waited, and for 2 months there was nothing. And then one evening his phone rang, and it was her. And they talked for 3 hours. Not everything was fixed. It took another 2 years of slow, careful work, but the door opened. And it opened because Raymond finally stopped defending himself and started seeing her. That is the power of being seen. It is the only key that fits the lock. The second part is you accept what you cannot control, and this is the hardest part, harder even than the honest self-examination. You cannot make your child come back. You cannot force it. You cannot guilt them into it. You cannot argue them into it. You cannot buy them back or manipulate them back or wear them down until they return out of exhaustion. Any of those things, even if they appeared to work, would only produce a hollow imitation of a relationship. The only reunion worth having is one that your child chooses freely, and you cannot control their choice. You can only control whether you have made yourself into a person worth returning to. You can leave the door open. You can keep the light on. You can make sure that if they ever decide to walk back through, they will find a changed parent, a humble parent, a parent who has done the work. But you cannot make them walk. And a parent who spends their remaining years in a state of desperate grasping, constantly reaching, constantly pushing, constantly trying to force the reunion, usually pushes the child further away and destroys their own peace in the process. You have to release your grip, not release your love. Release your grip. Love them with an open hand instead of a clenched fist. Because the clenched fist is what they walked away from, and the open hand is the only thing that might one day draw them back. I know how impossibly hard this is. Every instinct in a parent's body screams against it. When someone you love walks away, everything in you wants to chase, to grab, to hold on, to do whatever it takes to close the distance. That instinct is love. But in this situation, that instinct is also poison. Because the harder you chase an estranged child, the more you confirm the very thing that drove them away, which was often a feeling of being controlled, of being smothered, of never being allowed to be their own person. The chasing feels like love to you, but it can feel like pressure to them. And so the most loving thing you can do, the thing that goes against every instinct you have, is to stop chasing, to take a step back, to say, in effect, I am here, I love you, the door is open, and I am going to let you come to it in your own time, if you ever choose to. That stepping back is not giving up. It is the opposite of giving up. It is the most disciplined form of love there is. The love that is willing to wait, the love that trusts, the love that refuses to turn the relationship into a hostage situation. And paradoxically, it is the love that is most likely to work, because it gives your child the one thing they need in order to consider coming back, which is the freedom to choose it themselves. The third part is, you build a life that is full without them. And I know how that sounds. I know it sounds impossible. How do you build a full life with a child-shaped hole in the center of it? But you have to, not to spite them, not to prove you do not need them, for your own survival. Because a parent who allows an estrangement to consume their entire existence, who thinks of nothing else, who lives only in the pain of the absence, is a parent who is slowly dying inside, and that dying serves no one. It does not bring the child back. It does not honor your own life. It just wastes the years you have left, and you do not have unlimited years. So you have to make the hardest choice a grieving parent can make, which is to keep living, to find other sources of meaning, other relationships, other purposes, to let the pain be part of your life without letting it be all of your life, to carry the grief in one hand while holding on to joy with the other, because both are possible at the same time. You can miss your child every single day and still find reasons to smile. You can leave the door open and still walk forward into a life that has other rooms in it. And here is the strange truth. A parent who builds a full and peaceful life, who does the honest work and accepts what they cannot control and keeps living with grace, is a far more magnetic person than a parent who is drowning in desperate grief. If your child ever does look back, they are far more likely to walk toward a parent who has grown and found peace than toward a parent who is standing exactly where they left them, still bleeding, still grasping, still trapped in the same patterns that drove them away in the first place. I want to say one more thing, and I want to say it directly to the parents who have searched their hearts and know, truly know, that they did their best, who loved their children fiercely and imperfectly, the way all real love is fierce and imperfect, who are now living inside a silence they did not earn. To you, I want to say this: your worth as a human being is not determined by whether your child calls you. I know it feels that way. I know that when your own child rejects you, it feels like the final verdict on your entire life, like a judgment that says you were a failure as a parent and therefore a failure as a person. That verdict is false. Your child's choice to walk away is information about where your child is on their own journey. It is not the final measure of your worth. You can be a good person and a good parent and still have a child who walked away, because your child is a free human being making their own choices for their own reasons, and those choices, however much they wound you, do not have the power to erase the love you gave or the person you are. Do not let the silence convince you that you are worthless. You are not the silence. You are the love you gave, whether or not it was received. And that love was real, and it mattered, and it is part of who your child is, even if they cannot see it right now, even if they never see it. You planted something in them that they carry whether they acknowledge it or not, and that is not nothing. That is a kind of immortality that no estrangement can take away. And I want to add one thing for these parents, because I have seen it bring peace where nothing else could. Your job as a parent was to raise your child into a free and capable adult. And if your child is out there, living independently, making their own choices, even choices that break your heart, then in a strange and painful way, you succeeded. You raised a person strong enough to make their own decisions and stand on their own 2 feet. The very independence that is now being used to walk away from you is, itself, evidence that you did something right. It does not ease the pain, but it might, on a hard night, give you something to hold. You did not raise someone weak. You raised someone strong. And strong people walk their own paths. Sometimes those paths lead away from us, and sometimes with time they curve back. I am 70 years old. I have watched this pain up close in the lives of people I love, and what I have learned is that the parents who survive it, who come through it with their peace and their dignity intact, are the ones who do these three things. They do the honest work, they release their grip, and they keep living. Not because it is easy, it is the hardest thing a parent can do, but because it is the only path that leads anywhere other than deeper into the darkness. The door stays open, the light stays on, and you keep living with grace, with an open hand, ready to receive them if they ever come back, and at peace with your own life whether they do or not. That is all any parent in this situation can do, and it is enough. Not because it guarantees a reunion, because it guarantees that you will not lose yourself while you wait. If what I said today reached the specific ache you carry, the book is there, The Native Way, 20 teachings. It is in the pinned comment, and the code is on your screen. Read it slowly. You are not as alone as you feel. Tell me in the comments. If you are carrying this pain, you do not have to explain it. Just say, I am here. So the others who are carrying it too can see that they are not the only ones. I read every comment. And if you needed someone to speak this pain out loud so you did not have to carry it in silence anymore, subscribe. This channel sees the pain that the world tells you to hide, and you are welcome here. I will see you next week.